Welcome to C2 Primetime, presented by RBC, an engaging monthly show aimed to inspire and inform our C2 community, answering all of today's burning questions in terms of commerce and creativity. This month, we discuss the impact the pandemic has had on emerging artists and their revival with Michaëlle Sergil, an emerging artist herself and curator at Nigra Luventa right here in Montreal. We also catch up with Canada's very own aerospace engineer, Dr. Farah Alibay, who shares with us how her creativity plays an important role in her scientific field.
Thank you so much for joining us, Michaëlle.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, first off, I want to start off by congratulating you because you recently won the Bourse Plein Sud 2021, which aims to encourage research innovation in terms of emerging artists in contemporary art right here in Quebec. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, I want to start off because C2's theme this year is right? The two-letter words reimagine, rethink, reinvent. How does this theme speak to you?
Well, I automatically think about rethink, reconsider, repurpose. And to me, with the pandemic, we had to change so much thing in the art field, for example, that we always tend to think about exhibitions in person and never really virtually. And it's also another field that we can explore and to rethink how we used to think about exhibitions and to see it maybe virtually and then open the space to anyone in the world. It's a different way to see the exhibitions that we used to see. And also to think about how we would construct the exhibition virtually, what text would be the first one, what artwork would be the first one. And it's also to think about just how you would curate the whole thing. It's completely different than when you have it in person.
Now, because you are an emerging artist, is that something you had to think about in terms, this whole, we're going to say 18 months now of this pandemic, like you're saying, reinvent, rethink, curate. Is that something you were focusing on?
Yes and no, not really. As an artist, no, to be honest. I feel like, yes, I had one situation where the exhibition was supposed to be in person and then it changed completely and went virtually. And the curator managed everything. She just let us know that, okay, now it's changing, we can't do it in person, but I will let you know. And she was really the one thinking about the whole thing and thinking about how the artwork will be seen by the public on the website. And for me, it wasn't like something too surprising because we sensed that it would be a long thing, the pandemic. But as an artist, I didn't have to care too much about that. But as a curator and as a communication coordinator in a gallery, I had to think about it. And I had to say, for example, meet an artist and say, okay, what do you think about virtual exhibition? Is it something that you want to do? And would you be willing to think about curating your own show virtually? Or would you be willing to think about putting this text in first or putting this image first, and what does it mean for you? Because it's basically curating your own show, but virtually for artists sometimes. And with the gallery that I'm working with, we had to ask these questions to the artist.
Has the pandemic provided you any opportunities this year?
Yeah, well, actually, I work as a curator also with Nigra Luventa, an organization, and we had an exhibition with the art gallery Never Apart, and we were thinking, since we couldn't have the exhibition in person, what would we do, and would it be a page on the website, and what would it be for anyone in the world? Can it be virtual? And the gallery suggested that we could film the whole exhibition and do a 360 to see every art piece and every text in the gallery. And I know that for me, it's not the same thing to have an exhibition virtually and to have an exhibition in person, because you can see the scale of the work, you can be in front of the work and really imagine yourself in it, and it's not the same feeling. But with this virtual part of the exhibition, having it 360 and having it really like everything was filmed by the people working at the Never Apart, it was a great way to also just open the exhibition to anyone in the world. And eventually we had the opportunity to open the gallery to the public, but since it was the pandemic, we had to really think about how many people could enter the gallery at the same time, but at least we had a chance to show this work to anyone in the world.
Now, do you think, because obviously I know what you're trying to say, right? It's not the same virtually than in person, but the pandemic is probably going to stay with us for a couple more years, sadly. What value does virtual have in terms of art now?
Well, to me, it automatically made me think about how to archive an exhibition, because we tend to have in-person exhibitions. We have pamphlets, we have books, we have things that will stay for the exhibition, but for virtual exhibition, we can have way many more ways to archive it, because since it's virtual, can we keep the same page open to the public for many years and that's the way to archive it? Or would it need to be, with the droit d'auteur, for example, do we need to think about how the artist will think about their work? Can we keep the work online? And would it be something that we have to consider with the artist when we do contracts? So to me, it opens like another field of questions, and we have to think about how to archive these things, because it's also a period in our time that we need to archive.
But is it a struggle for artists right now and emerging artists to showcase their work? Or is it in fact better that it's virtual because they can show it to more people? What's better and what's worse?
I mean, it depends on the practice. To me, to be honest, I don't mind having my work being in a virtual exhibition, but I feel like it's not the same essence that will go out from the work. But at the same time, I did have a lot of opportunities for people in New York, for example, to see my work. And it was the first time for me to have really a good interaction with many people in New York who saw my work. And at least I had this chance too with the virtual exhibitions.
Aside from the pandemic, over the last 18 months, we've seen a lot of social issues, reach social media, reach a bunch, millions of people. What does that mean, for artists in terms of social issues, emerging artists?
For artists, we were really focused on what the institutions or galleries would do about what happened, because with what happened with George Floyd, for example, on May 25th, there was a lot of people watching and looking and trying to see, will any institutions do any statement, or will they be loud about this, or will they stay silent about it? And a lot of people were also thinking about these institutions and trying to see if they would program any Black artists, or if they did, or if they never did. And because of that, a lot of institutions started to do statements about what happened. And to me, it was kind of it was a good thing and a bad thing, because out of a sudden there was so many things that people would post, and everyone was on social media. But at the same time, if you're having a statement but never really showed any Black artists before, or you're trying to show an artist that you showed like 10 years ago, and suddenly it popped in your website to see, oh, I'm inclusive, oh, see, I did this like years ago. It's not the same thing. But for me, it was a good thing, because at that time, everyone was watching. So everyone could see they did something, they didn't, they never will. Like, you can see what institutions or who will really take a real position, or will just stay on words and never really act on it. And that was something to me that really made a big change.
Did it make a big change in terms of you as an emerging artist or as a curator? You have so many titles here, so.
Yeah, as an emerging artist, not really, because I feel like things have been kind of great for me during this pandemic too. And the only thing that I could see is sometimes you could be invited to talk about something. You would be invited to talk about racism and stuff like that, but it's not new. It's something that always had happened, and something that we should be talking about way more, and not just because something bad happened in another country. That we have to also focus on the fact that in Canada, there's so many things that happens too, and it's not recent. It's something that is ongoing, actually.
Are you seeing these social issues now in paintings and drawings? Are we seeing this more in galleries?
I don't think I saw a big change on the programming, because it's something that you have to really think about a year in advance. But I feel like at least people are more aware of what is political art or activism, and I feel like it's something that is really more forward than it was before, and that I think is great.
Are we giving those issues more space now too in the, in exhibitions and whatnot? Do you think that we will?
Definitely will. Yeah, I think so. Yes, because I think like, with everything that happened, people are really focused on trying to do something and trying to be helpful, because we're in a pandemic, we're moving forward, yes, but we're still kind of stuck in our house, and we're trying to see like what we can do for anyone in the world. And I feel like with exhibitions that are really political, there's actually a way to be involved, in a way to see, to understand, to like just imagine what is going on in the world and who are the communities that needs more help than the others.
Now, especially in terms of being a creative, how do you deal with this pressure of always having to create something or invent something, or do you not have any pressure?
I mean, everyone has pressure as an artist, but I think I said I wasn't really affected by the pandemic, but that's not true. I mean, I was affected in the sense that, in like the feeling, the weight of it.
On your shoulders.
Yeah, it was there at some point, but it took a while because I was kind of just trying to see like everything, how it was going on, and at some point, maybe like, I don't know, 12 months after the pandemic started, then it started to really it was harder than I thought. And I had a chance to work with a woman called Nancy Mackenzie Oliver, and I really, really enjoy working with her. And it's the fact that I'm working with someone in person, that I can talk to this person that has so many things to teach to other people, that really helped me. But I feel like without having this interaction with someone, I wouldn't be able to move forward with my work.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't it hard, because as artists, don't you want to be in a group, you know, with people? And so when you go virtually, or if you're doing stuff on Zoom, it's not the same, right?
No, it cuts the, I don't know, this kind of feeling, this mutual feeling to be understood. I feel like at the beginning it was just fun, and to see someone's house and to be able to like understand their way of living, but at the same time to not be in front of someone and to share their work and to see their work in person, it's not the same thing.
Now, what is the biggest need you think for emerging artists?
Well, there's a lot of things that had changed because of the pandemic, and I think even beyond the pandemic, to be honest, there's a lot of artists that we had to change our studio space because the rent was getting higher and higher and higher, and even with the rent getting higher, we sometimes couldn't even have a real space to do our work because we need a certain type of ventilation if we're working with sculptures, a certain type of ventilation if it's also working with material that are toxic, and with the rent getting higher, then it's really hard to just find a space that would work with our practice. And I think I know that Art Souterrain, for example, has a really nice project that they changed all the like commercial spaces into studio spaces, but if we could have something like that, that would be permanent, something that maybe, I don't know, the Conseil, I don't know what Conseil of Montréal or something like that could work with, but just to have a place where artists could work with their different mediums and that will never be toxic for them, that would be great.
Well, Michaëlle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Dr. Farah Ali Bey, who's an aerospace engineer who says that her creativity plays a fundamental role in her scientific field. She shares with us her creative process in terms of designing and manufacturing an entire spacecraft. And she will be speaking at this year's C2 event. Let's check her out.
So my name is Farah Ali Bey, and I'm an aerospace engineer, systems engineer, working at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory here in Los Angeles, California. So I've been working in aerospace for about 8 years, and more recently, I've worked on the Perseverance rover. So that's the large rover that landed on Mars in February of 2021. And I also work with its companion mission, the Ingenuity helicopter that performed the first powered flight on another planet, which was really cool to be part of that team. You know, it's strange because I never considered myself as a creative person. My partner is an artist. And so, you know, I think of him as a very creative person, but I can't draw, I can't play music, right? I don't. So from a basic definition of what I thought creativity was, I would say, oh, of course I'm not creative. Like, I'm an engineer, but that is 100% wrong, right? Like, of course I'm creative. Creativity is, I think, the core of what we do as engineers. When you want to innovate, you have to be creative. It's not your rudimentary definition of creativity, but it's using smart solutions, right? It's turning things on their head. It's thinking outside the box. All of these, you know, phrases that we hear all the time, that is what engineering is, right? And so absolutely, I think that and in fact, we are encouraged within our work to think differently, to approach problems differently. If we have problems, usually if I'm going to be presenting a solution to a manager, I won't be presenting just a single solution. I'll go through and do what we call a trade space of looking at multiple solutions, crazy solutions, doesn't matter. We bring them to the table and then we parse it from there. So, and certainly some of the projects that I've worked on, like Ingenuity, like the Marco CubeSats that we sent to Mars to do telecom relay, those are crazy ideas, you know, but sometimes the craziest ideas are the best. So absolutely, I think creativity, at least within my work, is something that I cultivate, something that is important, and it's important to keep challenging yourself also as you progress in your career. I think we tend to get set in certain ways of, well, we did it that way last time and it worked, right? So why not do it the same way, especially in a field like mine where heritage and success is so important. Sometimes we can fall out of the habit of being creative and thinking differently. So yeah, in my work, definitely I'm very creative. At home, I think it's something that I've been nurturing because I've discovered that time of exploring something or of learning something new is important. It helps. Again, I think it just trains your brain, right? It's like any other skill. You have to practice it. So it's something that, yeah, also in my personal life, I try and dedicate some time outside of all of the other things that I do to do things for myself where I learn a new skill, or I create some things in order to keep exercising that part of me.
To celebrate the new C2 re-theme, here's a list of what to read, watch, and listen to help you reconnect, reimagine, reevaluate today's new normal. Starting with Post-Corona, From Crisis to Opportunity by Scott Galloway. He's a New York Times best-selling author who writes an in-depth analysis of who stands to win and who's at risk to lose in a post-pandemic world. Next, you can watch The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, one of my personal favorite books about perseverance, now turned into a movie. This is a true story about a 13-year-old boy in Malawi who couldn't afford to go to school, so instead he saves his entire village from famine by constructing a windmill to provide water and electricity. Not bad for a 13-year-old. And lastly, the interview-based podcast called Smart People, where essentially two guys interview some incredible people doing some fascinating work. I promise you, one podcast episode alone will have you jumping out of bed full of motivation to tackle your day. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to check out our new C2 Montreal 2021 lineup. This year's 10th edition features world-class speakers like Olympic gold medal winning alpine skier Lindsey Vonn, Emmy-nominated writer, producer, actor, director, and she's also a New York Times best-selling author, Mindy Kaling. And if that's not enough, we've got more than 70 business leaders and experts from brands like TikTok, Reddit, Google, Facebook, Cirque du Soleil, and much more. Now, one quick reminder before I go, we've got online passes and in-person passes that are selling out quickly, so get yours today. That's it from me. Take care. Bye.